This free step-by-step video comes to you directly from Haynes, creators of the world's best repair manuals. Fix your car or truck the right way with our accurate and reliable information at your side. You can complete more than 200 jobs on this vehicle when you purchase the complete online manual at Haynes.com.
Starter motor replacement. Open the rear doors and lower the rear seat backs. Slide the rear seats as far forward as possible. Remove the rear seat mounting nuts. Lift the flaps in the carpet to locate the airbag electrical connectors and disconnect the connectors from the rear seats, then disengage the wiring harness retainers from the brackets. Raise the seat backs and slide the rear seats as far to the rear as possible. Remove the front bolt trim cover from the left side rear seat and remove the bolt. Remove the front bolt trim cover from the center and right side, then remove the bolts. Remove the seat headrests and lower the seat backs. With the help of an assistant, remove the rear seats. Remove the fuel filler cap to relieve any pressure built up in the fuel tank. Cut the carpet at the module access cover locations and flip the carpet back to access the fuel pump module cover. Remove the fuel pump module access cover fasteners and cover. Unplug the electrical connector from the fuel pump module to disable the electric fuel pump. Start the engine. It will run momentarily, then stall. Crank the engine several more times to ensure the fuel system is completely relieved of pressure. Open the driver's side door and pull the hood release lever located by the kick panel. Pull the hood safety latch forward, then raise the hood. Loosen the cable clamp nut. Insert a flat blade screwdriver between the clamp ends to slightly expand the clamp, then disconnect the cable from the negative terminal of the battery. Once the cable has been disconnected, secure the cable end away from the battery terminal. Grasp the front of the cover and lift the cover up until the grommets in the cover are free of the ball studs. Then lift the rear of the cover until the grommets in the rear are free of their ball studs. Apply the parking brake. Chock the rear wheels to prevent the vehicle from rolling. Place a floor jack under one side of the vehicle, positioning it under the reinforced frame area. Then raise the front of the vehicle. Support it with a jack stand placed under the notched area of the rocker panel seam. Then lower the vehicle onto the jack stand and remove the jack. If raising both sides of the vehicle, move the floor jack to the opposite side and place it under the reinforced frame area on that side. Raise the front of the vehicle, then place a second jack stand under the notched area on that rocker panel seam and lower the floor jack. When raising both sides of the vehicle, make sure the vehicle is level. Loosen all of the screws around the under-engine cover, both front and rear. Then, working from one to another, remove the fasteners and lower the under-engine cover from the vehicle. Disconnect the electrical connector from the intake air temperature (IAT) sensor. Loosen the intake air hose clamp at the throttle body. Disconnect the intake air hose retainer using a screwdriver or trim tool. Remove the intake air hose mounting bolt. Carefully disconnect the intake air hose from the throttle body. Loosen the intake air hose clamp at the air filter housing. Then disconnect the fresh air tube from the intake air hose. Then remove the intake air tube from the engine. Disconnect the electrical connector from the throttle body. Disconnect the throttle body support bracket fasteners and remove the support. Remove the throttle body mounting bolts and the throttle body from the intake manifold. Remove the cowl panel corner trim seals. Remove the windshield wiper arm fastener covers using a small screwdriver, then remove the wiper arm nuts and wipers. Remove the cowl panel fasteners using a trim tool. Lift the cowl panel up along the front edge, then disengage the rear of the panel from the windshield and remove it. Remove the lower cowl panel fasteners. Disengage the electrical connector harness retainer from the lower cowl panel, then remove the lower cowl panel. Disconnect the fuel line quick connect fittings and have rags ready to soak up any residual fuel. Disconnect the fuel line locks, then depress the quick connect release tabs and separate the fittings and remove the lines. Using a screwdriver, separate the injector sound insulator and carefully remove the insulator. Disconnect the electrical connector to the manifold pressure MAP sensor. Loosen the air filter housing fresh air duct clamp, then separate the duct from the top cover. Loosen the filter housing top cover mounting screws. Use a magnet or needle nose pliers to remove the mounting screws from the top cover. Slide the cover toward the front of the vehicle, then lift the cover up and out. Remove the filter from the housing. Remove the air inlet cover duct fasteners and duct. Remove the air filter housing fasteners, then pull the housing off of the grommets and remove the housing. Disengage the coolant expansion tank retainers using a trim tool. Remove the air filter housing mounting bracket nuts and bracket. Remove the coolant expansion tank mounting bolts, then lift the tank up and out of the grommet and secure the tank out of the way. Spray some penetrating oil close to the exhaust fasteners and allow it to soak in before loosening. Loosen and remove the front exhaust pipe nuts. Remove the front exhaust support bracket fastener. Remove the front exhaust pipe from the exhaust manifold. Remove the intake manifold lower support bracket fasteners and bracket from under the intake manifold. Place a small block of wood onto the floor jack, then place the jack head under the oil pan and slightly raise the engine. Remove the right engine mount fasteners so the engine can be moved forward slightly. Then remove the intake manifold insulator screws and insulator. Release the injector connector locking tabs, then disconnect the electrical connectors from the injectors. Remove the intake manifold bolts and nuts. Be sure to take your time and get all of the fasteners. Carefully separate the intake manifold from the cylinder head and check to make sure nothing is still connected, like the sensor connectors or wiring harness retainers. Remove the intake manifold support bracket nuts and bolts. Once the manifold can be moved, remove the support bracket fasteners and bracket from the left side of the intake. Carefully lift the manifold up and out of the engine compartment. Working from above, loosen and remove the starter motor upper mounting bolt. Due to tight tolerances, the bolt might not be able to be completely removed. Working from below, unscrew the nut and disconnect the battery positive cable from the starter. Using a small screwdriver, release the electrical connector lock, then disconnect the electrical connector from the starter and move the harness out of the way. Loosen and remove the starter motor lower mounting bolt, then remove the starter. Guide the new starter motor into position and install the lower mounting bolt. Connect the starter solenoid connector to the starter solenoid, then the battery positive cable to the starter terminal. Screw on the nut and tighten it securely. Working from above, install the starter motor upper mounting bolt and tighten the bolt securely. Tighten the starter upper bolt and lower bolt to the specified torque setting. Remove the gasket from the intake manifold. Clean the mating surfaces of the manifold, then install new gaskets on the manifold. Clean the mating surfaces of the cylinder head, then install the intake manifold onto the manifold studs and install the stud nuts to hold the manifold in place. Install the intake manifold bolts and nuts and tighten them hand tight. Tighten the intake manifold bolts and nuts to the specified torque setting. Connect the electrical connectors to the injectors and push the locking tabs down. Connect the electrical connector to the manifold pressure (MAP) sensor. Install the intake manifold insulator and tighten the screws securely. Connect the harness retainer to the right side of the intake manifold. Install the intake manifold support bracket and bolts. Tighten the support bracket fasteners securely. Connect the harness retainers to the left side of the intake manifold. Slide the engine toward the rear until the engine mount bolt holes line up, then install the mounting bolts. Tighten the fasteners securely. Lower and remove the floor jack from under the engine. Tighten the engine mount to strut tower fastener to the specified torque setting. Tighten the engine mount to frame fasteners to the specified torque setting. Install the injector sound insulator. Connect the fuel line quick connect fittings, then connect the fuel line lock. It should snap into place. Connect the fuel line quick connect fittings, making sure they lock into place, then connect the fuel line lock. It should snap into place. Install the coolant expansion tank onto the grommet, then install the mounting bolts. Tighten the coolant expansion tank mounting bolts securely, then install the harness retainer. Install the air filter housing mounting bracket and nuts, then tighten the nuts securely and install the hose retainer to the bracket. Install the air filter housing onto the grommets, then install the housing fastener and tighten it securely. Install the air inlet cover duct and fasteners, then tighten the fasteners securely. Install the filter into the housing, making sure it is seated evenly. Install the filter housing cover to the housing, then the air filter housing fresh air duct into the air filter housing and tighten the clamp securely. Install the filter housing cover mounting screws and tighten them securely. Working under the vehicle, install the intake manifold lower support bracket and fasteners, then tighten the fasteners securely. Install the front exhaust pipe to the exhaust manifold, then install the support fastener. Install the front exhaust pipe to exhaust manifold nuts, then tighten the nuts and support fastener securely. Reinstall the lower cowl panel and fasteners, then tighten the fasteners securely. Install the cowl panel, making sure the panel is secured against the windshield, then install the plastic retainers. Install the cowl panel corner trim seals and fasteners. Install the windshield wiper arms and nuts. Tighten the windshield wiper arms securely, then install the covers. Remove the rag from inside the throttle body and clean the throttle body mounting surface of the intake manifold, then install the gasket. Install the throttle body and throttle body mounting bolts, then tighten all the bolts evenly by hand. Tighten the throttle body bolts to the specified torque setting. Install the throttle body support bracket with the bolt on the bracket and tighten the upper bolt to hold the bracket into place. If the bolt falls off, use a magnet to install the bolt. Install the PCV tube to the PCV valve and connect the electrical connector to the throttle body. Install the intake air tube ends into the air filter housing and throttle body, then connect the fresh air tube to the inlet duct. Tighten the intake air hose clamp at the throttle body. Tighten the intake air hose clamp at the air filter housing. Reconnect the coolant hose retainer. If the retainer breaks, which is common, use a plastic zip tie to secure the hose in place. Then connect the electrical connector to the intake air temperature sensor. Install the intake air hose plastic retainer. Then install the intake air hose mounting bolt. Tighten the intake air hose mounting bolt securely. Connect the electrical connector to the fuel pump module, then install the fuel pump module cover and tighten the mounting screws securely. With the help of an assistant, place the rear seats back in the vehicle. Install the seat front bolt, then install the right side rear seat front mounting bolts. Tighten the bolts to the specified torque setting. Then reinstall the access covers. Slide the rear seats as far forward as possible. Install the seat rear mounting nuts. Tighten the mounting nuts to the specified torque setting. Then reinstall the access covers. Lift the flap in the carpet to locate the airbag electrical. Reconnect the connectors and the wiring harness retainers to the brackets. Raise the seat backs and slide the rear seats to the rear. Place the under-engine cover onto the vehicle and align the fastener openings. Then install the screws and tighten them securely. Raise one side of the vehicle at a time, then remove the jack stand and lower that side to the ground. Then raise the other side of the vehicle and remove that jack stand. Remove the chock from the rear wheels. Locate the 4 ball studs on the engine and the 4 grommets on the cover. Place the engine cover on the engine, aligning the grommets with the ball studs. Once they are all aligned, push the cover down until the grommets lock into place on the ball studs. Connect the cable to the negative terminal of the battery. Tighten the cable clamp nut securely. Close the hood.